to that page, click on events. All right, questions? I know some people don't do Facebook, and that's great, but it's just one way for us to reach another group of people. All right? All right, so let's go to the next slide then, and that would get through the. This slide right here usually comes with a video, okay, but you can't just work, so. We didn't talk about this. Here at the council, sometimes we get it from our own funds, wherever we budget for my committee. Sometimes it's a grant. Last year, we got a grant from the Cabela's Outdoor Fund, and we built 2 platforms. One is on Squirrel Meadows right now. That was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout project. And we've got another one out there that's brand new, built from those same funds. And it's gonna go up to Betty Creek as soon as possible. Probably July, it's drying, put one in there. I'm really looking forward to our first patrol trip up there to see all the shooting lanes that are open now because of the fire. We had 2 up there starting in 2010, and the only maintenance they needed was a couple of thread boards on the ramp. So they're built out of pressure treated 2x6s, and they last a long time. They're built to ADA specs. The only thing we have to do is make sure the ramp is long enough for how high it sits off the ground. And we've got ADA spec handrails on both of them. I'm not gonna say they're ADA approved because then ADA's gotta come out and you gotta pay for an inspection fee and all that. But they are built to specs, they exceed the specs. The minimum spec for a platform is 5x6 and these are 6x8. And they're built tough. You'll find more screws and boards and hangers and bolts on these things to hold it together. And sometimes the only thing they need is a little fresh coat of stain in the spring. But that's part of what we combine our maintenance strip with the route patrols. Because while we got guys in there patrolling the route, 2 or 3 guys could stop and work on that platform and take care of whatever needs to be done.
So we had something, what won't these cities handle?
A tank.
Or.
A near miss explosion or a horse. Now, while the platform itself held the horse, the handrail didn't take it when it got spooked by a mouse.
It's not an engine those.
So the horse got spooked and handrail got torn off. I don't know what happened to the horse. But the sign on it says for disabled use only. So I don't know what was wrong with the horse. He thought he qualified. But they're very tough. They last a long time and we take a lot of pride in how we build them. And when we put them in, we put them in the right spot. We don't just find some spot on the side of the road, which is, we do put them on the side of the road, but it's a part of the road where the person in a wheelchair can get out of their truck or their van, not far from this. Leave it parked where it's at, because if there's a wide enough shoulder on the road, and they can motor right up onto or hand wheel it right up on the ramp onto the platform. Some of them we put some foliage on it to give them break up the image, but they're all accessible and you don't have to follow all these RCWs for trails. This is off a Forest Service road. Now here's the other thing: if you have, we went right through special use permits pretty quick earlier. What I should say is, on that special use permit where it says, if you're allowed to shoot from your vehicle, keep in mind, you're not allowed to do that from the road. You still have to be off the road. In the Forest Service, inside the Colville National Forest, once you get behind a gate that is closed for administrative reason, like disabled hunters, once you get behind that gate, that road doesn't exist. So you're not shooting from the road. So even if you're not on a wheelchair platform, if you're in your wheelchair just going down the road, that road doesn't exist as long as you're behind that gate. So it's a very firm, stable surface for your wheelchair, which you want, but you're not violating any law by shooting from that road as long as you're behind the gate. Okay?
Somebody asked earlier a little bit about the change away from the orange placards, and that was the one thing that was really happening. A lot of people that had mobility, they were capable of getting up and walking into places. had their orange placard because they were a hunter with a disability. However, they should not have been shooting from the vehicles, and they were. And it's probably, I would say, this year so far, from what I've seen at the Bighorn Show and already today, I can tell that the word's getting out there, because in years past, Ken and I both have been, well, so I can shoot from my side-by-side or my ATV or this or that or the other. And we'd ask questions, and you need to have that thing in park and the ignition is turned off.
Yep.
Okay? And so those were the kind of issues that we were running into. And then go back one, please. One of the things, if you look at the picture there on the left, Ken and I and the team, different ones that go out and we start scouting for where we put these. You can't really see it really well, but on the back side of this platform, the ground actually slopes in different directions. And up front on the ramp, we're really pay attention to, one, digging out so that it's as level as we can get it. And then we put gravel down in there and try to pack it down. And a lot of times, like, I'll take my grandkids out with us. They have a blast jumping up and down to make sure that the gravel is packed in. But those kinds of things, and when we do the Eagle Scout projects, we got a third one coming up. Those boys love doing that also. But we get that packed down, and we've got a built-in, tester for those things. Like, I'll hop up in there. And so the picture up here on the right, that was how Ken and I really got connected. He goes, "Hey, you're in a wheelchair. Would you mind going out and checking this out and telling me what you think?" And it got us talking and working on how do we make things better for those. So we're real cautious on this, but the kicker is, this is where you have an opportunity to really get involved in. You're out in the woods and you're like, you know what, this is an awesome place to hunt if I had mobility, or if I had a place to actually set up. And you see that spot, especially if it's public land, let us know. We'd love to be able to go out there and take a look at it and say, you know what, this is a perfect spot for a platform. And then let us do the politics behind it and talk to the right people.
At the very least, we're still your ADAC reps. That's stuff that we need to know so we can dig into something like that, contact the right people and make those opportunities materialize for you guys. We serve you.
Occasionally, state, a couple years ago, actually budgeted for us in, what we do, 3 platforms and 2 aluminum lines, right?
Yeah.
Out of that one, and a couple of covers.
So we have pieces of the aluminum 88 duct line sitting out in the warehouse right now, waiting for a location, and preferably on state land. And Todd Barstead, who couldn't be here with us today, he's a private lands biologist. He's got connections. He's got a couple ideas. He's also worked on making additional land available for us on timber company property. Right now, the only options that we'll get to these here in a second is Inland Empire Paper Company, and what used to be Hancock Timber Management is now Manulife Investment. They change their name every few years for some reason. But the third one, if you've got an Onyx app or you've been out in forests, Simpson Lumber Company, they have parcels all over the inland Northwest, just like the other 2 paper companies. And we are now working with them. They are receptive to a ADA program where they will fence or gate off certain tracts of land just for disabled hunters. But it takes some signing and, people in Olympia signing this and that, and their people signing this and that. And it'll probably be we're kind of rotating 2-year agreement. Because if they go for anything longer than 2 years, it goes from 2 years to 5-year agreement. And if you do 5-year agreement, then the mothership, wherever that is, has to get involved. It's just easier to take care of it locally with a 2-year agreement. And you guys locally are all for it. So that'll be coming up soon, I hope. All right. So these are the places where we've got them. First of all, I told you it's an 8x6 ADA compliant. Aladdin Mountain has 2. If you come in from the Ione side by Big Meadow Lake, you're gonna turn left, go up the road that takes you past these 3 different gates. And the first road is the 360 road, then the 350 road, and they don't have any platforms on them yet. The 350 will this summer. But the 360 road doesn't have any spot anywhere along the entire side of the mountain that lends itself to put a platform in. The 350 has one spot. If you go further up the mountain towards the top, the 330 road, we've already got 2 platforms on it and they're in great spaces with, we may have to move the one at the very end because brush is growing up. We're not allowed to make shooting lanes. We have to put them where there are shooting lanes. Does that make sense? They're not permanently installed, just like we talked earlier. There's timber company stuff going on. They got a timber sale here or fuel reduction job going on over here. We may have to move our platforms periodically. We did that once already in Brewer Mountain. Brewer Mountain has one, and that's on the map we showed earlier. I've got a document I'm gonna be putting out here pretty soon. It'll have, I sent one to you, did I? Did?
Yes.
I should have made that available for today. I'm sorry. So Brewer Mountain has one, Squirrel Meadows has 2. We put one in, that was an Eagle Scout project. Rustler's Gulch has 2, that's a wildlife area owned by the state. And Sherman Creek has one out the other side of Kettle Falls. And then Stand Up, Christmas program, we have one out there, but we're gonna modify that from a stand out behind the old heat shed. Make it accessible for it as a duck blind now. But that's, I'll let Chris talk more about that when it's his turn to come up here. Blanchard Hump, that's Manulife investment property, and we've got a platform there we put there last year with big help from the Kalispell wildlife team. Kalispell tribe wildlife team. Anyway, they were a big help in putting that in as well as covers on 2 of the platforms. All right, Inland Empire Paper Company, that's, today's the deadline. The application's over here in the corner of the table. They give away 25 family permits every year. And that's not just for hunting. Once you get that permit, it's good for cutting firewood too. Christmas tree, yeah, all that. They have on Marquette, no, that's talking about back home. On Mount Spokane. Whew. All right, it's your turn to talk. My mouth.
They have several different plots, several different gates, different things like that. The neat thing about that is, once you have that, they send you the packet and it gives you all the details, all the rules to follow. Things like, you gotta have a bucket, you gotta have a fire extinguisher, a shovel. I think that's it as far as what you have to have, right? But then like we were talking about earlier, being prepared, having first aid, whatnot like that. But once you get behind these places, or behind those gates, huckleberry hunting, just sightseeing, mushrooms, like Ken said, firewood, Christmas trees, and then hunting. A couple of years ago up there, north of Newman Lake, they had done a bunch of clear cutting. Come through and Ken was like, oh my gosh, look at all this. This looks like a bomb went off. And I said, this is a good thing. He's like, what do you mean? They brought his side by side up and we went up, going around and we're looking and it's like, okay. And we're looking at our watches. It's getting time for something to eat. We start heading back and all of a sudden Ken goes, looky there. The elk were coming back in there. Normally we would not see elk up in that area. But because of that clear cutting, that undergrowth, like what Josh was talking about earlier, now there was something for them to forage on. So that's part of that health of the forest. But the paper company, they've been doing this for a long time now. And it's a really great program. And we're excited this year. Most years, we're begging people, please put your application in so we can draw for this, right? This year, what was the last time you had?
35 applications, so we're 10, as of right now, 10 people are not going to get a permit. And I've got a handful in my tin can right here that still have to be sent fishing game for beddings, not counting the applications you guys are gonna fill out today. So anybody who wants to take part in this program, there's applications there, fill it out today. Make sure I can read your wild ID number. And make sure you put it on there accurately, because if it's one digit off, probably gonna come back rejected. So please, fill out the application and make sure I can read it. I'm gonna send it to Fishing Game with your first and last initial, and your wild ID. They'll look it up, verify it in the system, and then I attach a raffle ticket to your application. The other half goes in a bucket, Next Friday, we're gonna have the drawing. This coming Friday. We're gonna have the drawing, and then you'll be notified by mail probably within a week. Okay?
If you don't have your wild ID number with you, you should be able to get online and go through the process, because if you've ever had a license for hunting or fishing, it's in there. And you may need to do a forgot my password, but you're gonna be able to get it.
If you go to the Inland Empire Paper Company's website, it'll click on the recreation tab. It'll give you the maps for everywhere they've got property that you're allowed to use with that permit. Now, there's a phone number on that permit as well that says, you can call that number to find out if a certain gate on a certain area is gonna be open or closed. Some of those gates, a lot of them are not manned like they are on Mount Spokane. On both sides of Mount Spokane, at the ski park and over on Thompson Creek, they hire somebody to camp at that gate from April through November to check permits for people going in and out. A lot of them don't have it and the gate's closed or something. So call ahead of time. If you want to check out a certain area, call ahead of time, make sure the gate to that area or that parcel is open for you to drive in. Otherwise, you're gonna have to walk in, and that kind of defeats the purpose of using it as a disabled person using the permit. Okay, any questions on Inland Empire Paper Company? All right, let's go to the next one. Manulife. This used to be called Hancock Timber Management. They are now Manulife, like I mentioned earlier, they've changed the name a few times. Two parcels. One is in GMU 121, and it's north of Waits Lake. Some of you guys have probably already been up there and used it. The other one is I mentioned already, Blanchard Hump, east of Elk. It's actually exactly the gate is 8 miles exactly from the Idaho state line. And it's a great area for deer and bear. We've seen plenty of sign in there. And where we put the platform this past June, great shooting lanes. You've got an incredible place there you can hunt. And that application period, if you're not part of this program already, call the office on Monday and ask to have your email added to the list. Because at 1st of August, we're going to send an email out to everybody, and you fill out the permit, return it to us for the application, and we will send it back to you approved with directions to each of the two places as well as the combination to each game. They change these combinations every year also. So put someone who was permitted last year but didn't apply this year, they're not going to get access. You have to go through the system. Okay? Questions on Manulife? All right. Let's keep rocking. All right. We guys are familiar with Russell's Gulch Wildlife Area. How about Sherman Creek Wildlife Area? Okay, yeah, you live up there anyway.
Yeah.
So let's start with Russell's Gulch. There's two different accesses on this. If you head out US 2 north of town, if you turn on Fertile Valley Road, they'll take you to go down the hill and around the corner to the right. Then there'll be, where you see Roberts Road on the right, there'll be Last Chance Road on your left. You're gonna make a left there. It's a dirt road. Follow that road. It'll take you back to the gate. And there's a combination on it. We change that I don't change that one. The wildlife area assistant manager changed that one. And the only way to get access to either of these three spots is to go through him. So you got to contact the Sherman Creek Wildlife Area Assistant Manager, Daryl Palmer, and if you need his contact info, I'll give that to you at the end of the day. All right. I'll give you his email address and his office number. You can look it up. But, he's the one, basically all you got to do is give him make, model of your truck, license plate number. If you've got the orange placard, take a picture of that and send it in to him, or take a picture of your license that says disabled endorsement on it. And then he'll send you a picture, a map of the area, as well as combination of the game. But you got to keep your vehicle on the road. Okay. Sherman Creek is a little different. There's no gate, but there's this area that once you pass, anybody been on Highway 3 there? When you cross the bridge at Kettle Falls, you stay left. And then you stay on that until you get to, I think it's Highway 3 that takes you to Inchelium Road. You turn on that road, and then as soon as you pass the orchard on your left, look for a little road on the left. There's not going to be a sign. You just have to slow down and be prepared for it. There'll be a little road take you back to this little parking area. And that little parking area has a berm in lieu of a gate. You can't go, there's an old railroad bed there. You can get your wheelchair through there, but you can't get an ATV through there. That's the idea. So if you can walk through it, it's a 1/4 mile walk to that platform. But then you're right there on the edge of this big field where they release the pheasant every year. On one side, and then the other area is just open timber where there's not a lot of shrub or growth on the ground. You can have open shooting lanes all the way through there. It's a really neat spot and it's a great place for a platform. And it's only a 1/4 mile wheel for a guy in a chair to get there. It's not too bad. It's pretty level, hard surface. Just an overview of those two areas.
Picture over there on the background, on the left, that's actually the platform at Rustler's Gulch. That's right next to the old barn that's out there, and it looks out over the lake. Absolutely wonderful place to go. We've had horses and you need.
That's Fan Lake in the far background. You would Camp Reed is the Lions Day Camp, kids camp. That's where that's at, in the far background. The nice thing about this is, from being on that platform, anything at the end of the day that comes out of the other one of those tree lines is open target. And you got, it's easy 250-yard shots. The platform on the right here, that's one of the two on the ladder. All right, you heard Josh mentioned what the e-bike definition was for the Forest Service, and it's the same with state wildlife. Okay, if you have one of those blue parking permits, then you qualify for a class 1 or class 2 e-bike, as long as you're on a trail approved for bikes. If it's a non-motorized route, no diet. Both organizations, both state agencies or federal agencies, state and federal agencies, both recognize an e-bike as a vehicle with a motor. And therefore, it doesn't qualify for use on motorized routes unless you qualify through this program as a disabled hunter and you have that parking placard. Now, I don't know, the question I had when I first found out about this is, do I have to put my parking placard on my e-bike? I don't know. As long as you have your hunting endorsement as a disabled hunter, I think that's going to be enough.
When I got my fuel one, they sent me a card with the 2 license plates on it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that would be enough.
Yeah.
To show, just show the card that you have.
Yeah, if you have the parking permit or placard that you hang from your mirror,
Yeah.
you should have something in your wallet
I do,
with the same numbers on.
yeah.
Okay.
When e-bikes first became an issue and started being questioned, the biggest concern, the biggest conflict was someone like Cody or myself. What good's an e-bike do?
Right.
Doesn't help us at all. And so it really, we looked at it as another opportunity for people to get into places that we can't without giving us other opportunities to get in there. And so those are one of those things, it's one of those things that continues to be a hot topic. Depending on who's in power at different times, you hear things go one way or the other. And so this is one of those areas that if you have a disability, if you are really close to someone with a disability, this is where your voice really has a lot of power. Is, talking with us, talking with, the commission, things like that. How do we get the word out? What do I feel is appropriate? What I feel is inappropriate? Stuff like that.
The next couple of slides are going to be maps of those two areas. This one is the one off of Holly Road. If you take Division Road, first of all, you got to go north of town, then take the Aloysia Lake Road west till you get to Division Road. Go north on Division Road. When it turns into a gravel road, you're getting close to the intersection where it moves, it becomes Horseshoe Lake Road or Holly Road. Holly Road is the road that goes down the side of that mountain to the old Proofer Dairy Barn. Down there by the barn is where we set up that platform you see in the left side of the thing there. That now has a roof on it. Well, why do we put a roof on that? Because people in wheelchairs cannot regulate their body temp the way the rest of us can. So we put the roof on that one and one on squirrel meadows to help keep the hot sun, rain and snow. Can't do anything about the wind. But it keeps that much off of them and it helps a lot. Okay, and that was a topic of discussion this past Tuesday night at our Rustlers Gulch Wildlife Area Advisory Group meeting. Some of the backcountry horsemen want to know, why is there a roof on that? Well, now they know. I happened to be at the meeting and was able to address that topic, and they're all for, some of them are brand new and said never been to the area until they saw it on that and wanted to know, where else, you do this in Idaho too? I'm like, not yet. Not until we're invited, but. So we get that question about Idaho all the time.
Right.
I'm still not sure why they don't have a program like this.
It's a 1-2 punch because Ken and I, what's been 3-4 years ago now, we got a call and invited down to a farm down by St. Mary's. And the landowner there has several ponds that he's turned into the waterfowl hunting club. And he had a little 10-foot pontoon boat that he wanted to put on one of those ponds to make it strictly accessibility issues for persons in wheelchairs. He sent me some pictures. I was like, the first thing I was like, where did you want me to sit? Because he still had the seats on. And so Ken and I were able to go out there, give him some input on it. He made some changes. We went back out and he had it in place, those kinds of things. Private landowner. Right now, we love being able to tie in with Idaho Fish and Wildlife just for that same purpose. As the Wildlife Council here, we don't care. We can go into Idaho. And we look at it as a regional thing. And so if you've got a place that maybe isn't right here in our immediate area that you have some ideas about, that's where you want to come and let us know. And that way we can look at it. If you've got some connection with someone at the state in Idaho, again, let us know.
I have a question on Idaho hunting. Do they give the disabled people a break on your license as well?
Unlicensed, yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes. So for service-connected vets, it's actually, believe it or not, it is cheaper for us to hunt in Idaho than it is to hunt in Washington.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
Now, keep in mind, in Washington, you have to be a 30% rated vet or more. In Idaho, it's 40%.
Well, I'm 100, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, it's cheaper for me to buy a non-resident DAV elk tag in Idaho than it is here in Washington as a resident.
Oh my God.
By $4.
Well,
Fair.
nice.
All right, this slide right here, we want to let you guys know that we showed you where there's timber company stuff available to you. Where state land is available for you, federal land in the Forest Service. Now there's private land, and it's important to know these 4 things right here. You need to explore these 4 items on this list here as deep as you can. There's a reservation process in place for a lot of these, and some of them actually have access for ADA. Not all of them. And some of them are in areas where you probably don't want to go as a disabled person. But you need to see what's available on all 4 of those. Okay? Next is some of the other prac. I'm gonna talk about the track chair pro. I don't see Jamie here yet. Is she here?
No.
Okay.
Before we go to that, go back to that slide right before this. Something that a lot of people don't realize. Josh was here with the Forest Service, but Fish and Wildlife, every regional office has different staff for different purposes. And one of those, you've got conflict specialists, farmers that are having herds come through decimating their crops, conflict, right? But they also have private lands people, and you can go into the regional office and say, you know what, I didn't get drawn for a federal hunt, I didn't get drawn for road access, but I really want to go elk hunting. They've got a list, and a lot of times that landowner will call Fish and Wildlife and say, I'd like to have up to 4 people hunt on my property. I would rather have youth, veterans, service-connected veterans, or people with disabilities. sometimes there's no, it's just like whoever wants to hunt. But that staff at Fish and Wildlife is great at connecting you with those people. A couple of years ago, I talked about the hunt that I've drawn, and then a few days before hunt starts, bingo, they cancel that hunt because they're cutting timber. And I called up and I went into the Region 1 office. They connected me with a couple of different people. I made some phone calls, and before you knew it, my wife and I were out just south of Turnbull on a private ranch. And it was specifically for disabled vets. So understanding those kinds of things, understand the resources that are out there and utilize them. The staff at Fish and Wildlife, regional offices, and like I said earlier, especially Region 1, they want to help. They want people coming in and asking questions. And so it's a great way to get opportunities that most people aren't aware of, okay? Understanding these things that are on the website, you follow up on it, you can find some great resources, some great opportunities, but going in and talking with those biologists and different staff at regional offices, they're out there in the field, and so they're able to tell you, you know what? This unit here is maybe any elk. This one here, buck only, bull only, things like that. Oh, you know what? This property here, I've been out there, there's a lot of animal going through there, a lot of sign, things like that. So you want to be able to look at those things and understand what's available, all right? And you learn that by talking to other people. All right. Okay, track chair program. Ken wants to see who might be here. The battery is actually dead, unfortunately. How many of you were at the Bighorn show? How many of you saw the track chair that we had there? Okay. That is Northwest Sportsman's Club every year. And this has been, I want to say 6 years now. Does that sound right? About 6 years they've been doing the track chair giveaway. They do a drawing, for persons in wheelchairs. You put in the ones that have won have done really elaborate videos and things like that. But you put in why you think you would benefit from a track chair, and they do a drawing. They have a whole panel that reviews these applications. The names are blotted out. There's no identifiers on there. It's just about what did you put in there, okay? And so they look at that. Depending on their fundraisers, a couple of years ago, they had 2. Last year, they had 2 that they gave away. But they do these track chairs. These are great ways to get out there in different areas. They're not going to go through everything and anything. There's different terrain that they're just still not going to cut it. But if you know where you're hunting and whatnot, they're a great way to get out there. There's different resources. Wounded Warrior Project, they do one. I had the opportunity to test drive one of those when we still lived in Colorado. This thing could stand me up. I went over some terrain that I was like, are you sure this isn't going to fall over? The system that's built into it is phenomenal. It is just really, really stable, and it is great. Unfortunately, they'll go anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000, $30,000 to buy one. And so the organization or the company that Northwest Sportsman's Club uses, they kind of match whatever's sent in or raised to help be able to purchase that. Hunting with Heroes, that's an organization that's over in Wyoming, okay? That's something, Thomas, you've done that a couple of times, haven't you? You want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. If you got a smartphone, you can go in there and type in Hunting with Heroes Wyoming and hit the button, it'll take you right to their homepage. But you gotta be 70% disabled veteran or greater. And they have a bunch of paperwork. When you're applying for it, you have to have a letter from your VA stating that your percent disability within the last 5 years. So that's one thing. And then they have an opportunity, sometimes you can go 2 or 3 hunts, depending on what's available. So I got a pronghorn, and then I got an elk, a bull moose, or bull elk, I mean, and then I got a mule deer out of Cody, Wyoming. The elk came from Buffalo, Wyoming, and the pronghorn came from Casper. So you gotta get in there. They also request that you, if you can volunteer, to volunteer, just like everybody does,
Right.
and to get the word out. And so several of the people that I know here in our country have gone and got pronghorns and elk. But it's a matter of what the tags are available. The tags are donated. Your food and your housing, your everything, they pay for absolutely everything.
Oh, wow.
You just have to pay to get out there.
You just gotta get there.
I did hear on the radio that Wyoming, with the severe winter that they had, that their number of permits in line are gonna be way down this year.
Well, yes, true. We've had a real bad winter.
Yeah,
But it all depends what tags are available. Their local community from the whole state donates tags to the disabled veteran program. And the community donates money and services as well.
Okay, the Project Healing Water, Fly Fishing Group, Paralyzed Veterans of America. I thought Brent King was gonna be here today, but I'm not sure, what's up, but, another organization, they actually have the office for our chapter is actually over on the other side of the state. However, they've got a trailer that has been converted into a blind, and they're able to, you know, get you out there into it. It's set up in a good spot like our platforms are. So that's something that can be used. Be adaptive, mechanical devices. You look over there on the table on the side. Those are just a really, really small tip of the iceberg example of some of the types of adaptive equipment that are out there. Those were actually on permanent loan to us a few years ago. The gal that used to be the at-large rep for ADA Advisory Committee for Fish and Wildlife, she and I were working together because at the time I was the Region 1 rep, and we made some connections, and those were sent out to us going, here, you guys are doing this because things like the Bighorn Show, different shows, sportsman shows throughout in the Northwest, we go out and we demonstrate those kinds of things, okay? North Idaho Sportsman's Club, another waterfowl thing, Operation Catching Freedom, the Fallen Outdoors. Chris, we'll have you up here in a couple minutes to let you talk a little bit about that. Stand Up, Access Angling, and Fishing for All right? We've got a lot of different opportunities. We've got a lot of people that are looking for other ways to get involved as far as helping people with disabilities to get out into the outdoors. All right. There's Northwest Sportsman's Club, the track chair, that one there is not what they do. Cindy, that's what kind you guys have, isn't it? Yeah. Come.
Just as a side story, that equipment you have over there,
Right.
when I was in Wyoming hunting for the antelope, there was a blind guy. And they had that set up there, and there was a guy standing behind him with one of these cell phones that is connected to his skull. And so the blind guy would be on the weapon, and his aide would say, okay, to the left, up, down, right, or whatever. And this blind guy shot this antelope at about 150 yards, happy as a clam.
So the iPhone app that Thomas is talking about, so I'm actually a rehabilitation counselor and vision rehab therapist. And the iPhone app, I've actually got to work with a little bit. And so it's just, again, tip of the iceberg is some of those things that are out there.
And see, just so you know, because we've harvested a lot of animals with kids with that. And we don't use a phone. We actually have the scoping system that you can get through Be Adaptive, and we just use a screen that you use for a DVD player, which means you don't have to have any internet or anything.
Right. So there's a ton of different methods for doing this, okay? My patients, most of my patients are either new spinal cord patients, brain injury patients, or stroke patients. And so especially, I go in, I get a call from a physical therapist. Hey, I've got a 25-year-old guy, ATV accident, he's paralyzed, and he thinks his life is over. And I'll come in and I'll do a wheelie in my chair. And they'll go, how do you do that? And I'll go, why can't you? I tell them, get rid of the apostrophe T. The only can't that I follow, legal, ethical, moral, and policy. Outside that, my wife will tell me, you shouldn't. She knows better than tell me I can't, okay? It's a matter of attitude. And getting out into the outdoors, when I get in, I talk with that young guy. I tell him, I hunt, I fish, I camp, I hike, I climb, I scuba, I've got a wheelchair accessible boat. Cody and I play wheelchair basketball. I had a granddaughter's birthday, so I didn't get to go to nationals this year, but our team went to nationals the last 2 years. Last year, we finished 6th in the country, 14th, right, Cody, 14th this year. So the fact that our first 3 games were against the team that won it all, the team that took 3rd, the team that took 5th or 6th, wasn't it? Something like that, okay? So, I don't believe, and this goes for any of you, get rid of the apostrophe T. It's a matter of attitude. If you say you can't, you're right. If you say you can, you're right. Okay? When I'm working with different people, I tell them the only difference between me now and then, I just had to learn different ways to do some of this stuff. Okay?
Remember, this is Spokane, not Spokane.
We call our kids differently abled, just because we see these kids who have been disabled their whole life and they're skateboarding and so, yeah, it's crazy.
So Cindy hooked us up with a young gal. Just after I met her at the Bighorn show over at their booth, with another young gal who had already been on a hunt. But Ken and I were able to go out. Cindy called and said, hey, there's some issues going on. They're trying to figure some things out. How can you guys check this out? Ken and I went out there. And this is how the community really can work. And Cindy, I don't think you've had a chance to know this yet. We went out, we looked at some things. I'm a retired biomedical engineer. So the engineering side on some of these things, Ken's like, all right, you designed this. And so turn around, your company.
How did you get out of it? Hey, what you good?
Somebody put a saddle on that horse.
But anyway, we went out to the house, we looked around. They're gonna need some work on the decks. The decks are ancient and they're not in good shape, okay? I made phone calls to Dynamic Decks. We've all heard their commercials, especially listed ESPN, right? Called Dynamic Decks. The owner of the company answers the phone. I told him who I was with, and the situation we were looking at. He's like, I would love to come out and look and see how we can help design this thing. And so that's by just making phone calls, okay? Again, get rid of the apostrophe T.
All right, these are 2 people who won the chair last year. You can go to their website and on the left-hand column of the page, you can click on track chair campaign and then find out all about what's going on this year. The chair company matches their funds, whatever they raise, and usually put out 2 chairs a year. So if you're looking for a track chair, this is a good way to try and get one at no cost, but the process is competitive, I will tell you that. And if you provide a video with your application, you're more likely to be one of the closer to getting drawn than not. So
I'm starting to talk about how, if you'd seen it at the show, that one is actually out in our warehouse, and we found out the battery was dying, And we're pretty sure it's the original one, and Doug was the second one to ever win that from them. And so Ken and I were like, you know what, Doug lets us use that for every year for the Bighorn Show, he lets us use it for our ADA open house, let's buy him a new battery. Well, we found them online, not available. They started about $500. This is way bigger than any, deep cycle boat battery, but nobody's got them. So right now, we're trying to figure out where on earth we can actually get one that's the correct battery for it.
We would have loved to have it sit over here in the corner for your enjoyment, or at least
Viewing pleasure.
viewing pleasure. Enjoyment gives a whole different idea. doesn't it? All right, let's go ahead and have Sydney Carpenter come up now and talk about Youth Outdoors Unlimited.
So I'm excited that you guys can help Peyton and the young lady that, Dee and Ken were talking about is a Spokane gal who got diagnosed with cancer last year. Just recently had to have her left leg amputated, and so she's new to a chair, they're going through all kinds of stuff, so that's awesome. And she is going on an elk hunt with us this year, so we're pretty excited.
And she's so
She's
apostrophe T, right?
Well,
Not at all.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Youth Outdoors was founded in 2011, so this is our 13th year. And we give, fully funded and guided hunting and fishing trips for kids with life-threatening illnesses and physical disabilities. I would say half of our kids are, life-threatening illnesses. Half of our kids are kids with disabilities. Some very severe and some, a kid with cerebral palsy that's got weak issues. Probably half of our kids that will take on trips this year are from Spokane. We're excited about that, but, just to let you know that there's a lot of youth in your communities that fit our programming. But it's been a really fun adventure for us, and, I think that, I'm loving the work that you guys are doing here. Everyone can hunt. I don't care if you have no legs, no arms,
That's right.
you just have to hunt differently. So even that's where we get creative and being adaptive. We took, some brothers, one of them went on a deer hunt and one of them went on a bear hunt. And they were born without any arms, and they were able to, one shoot a bear and one shoot a deer, so.
Right.
But, yeah, so that's our program. I know that, you guys aren't use it hard, I'm sure. But if you want a good place to volunteer, got some amazing children that we're helping. We'll do, after this year, we'll do over 150 one-on-one guided trips for kids. And keep going, probably in the 20 trips just in 2020.
And you have a volunteer project coming up there where people can help you?
Well, since every kid gets their own camp, and it takes minimum of 6 people, a lot of times up to 12 people to set up camps, do filming, do cooking, work on the guiding portion. That's, if you're talking 20 kids, that's a lot of volunteer time. So, it's available, we'd love to have people who have disabilities help kids, but pretty sure the kids are gonna help the adults more.
Yep.
We do work with the state department on conflict resolution, and that's the one that Peyton will go on, she'll go on, and that area over and on the same. It's a great catalog, kind of, she's excited about it, so. We do also for those of you who are interested, we do a bear hunt in the Quinault, 1 to 2 bear hunts in the Quinault, and that is can be very accessible. We work through Candy Charlie, and he sets up a blind, takes you in, our equipment in there, he drops you off, he takes the barrel, takes off for the day, and but we've taken a lot of kitchen chairs and a lot of kid parts from shooting up there.
Cindy, how do you select who you're gonna take at different times? And 2, how is it determined what animal they're gonna get to try to harvest?
So, if they fit our medical criteria, which is kids with a life-threatening illness, or a physical disability needing our adaptive equipment. Autism is absolutely a disability, it's not a disability that we consider a physical disability needing our adaptive equipment. So if they fit our medical criteria, it's not a chosen deal, we will make sure that kid gets stripped. A kid fitting our program, we have never told no. So it just means we. And what was the other question?
Do they get to pick which animal or how's that determined?
So, my husband Joe is our guide manager, he's trains all the volunteers, he works with the landowners. I'm in charge of pretty much fundraising. So we need a kid and, you know, Joe will talk to him, say, hey, what kind of hunt do you want to go on? And I say, hey, I'd like to go on an elk hunt and, you know, but, you know, Joe might say, I think that's a great fit for you, or gosh, I think that might be a real challenge. Could we look at a different hunt that will put you in a higher percentage chance of success rate for harvest? We got a kid this year that's got cancer that we met at our auction in Spokane last week. And he wants a cougar hunt, and we're gonna give him one. So we don't normally take kids cougar hunting, but this kid's 19, and so I'm excited. Then we're gonna work through a guide service in Idaho, so. But we are under 21 at the time of application. That's our, since we already, and as far as a lower age, if you want to go hunting, you gotta be old enough to have to kind of take a class, so. Cool. Been really fun.
Anybody have any other questions for Cindy? Cool.
Okay, we're off.
Cindy. As soon as she's done, I'm gonna ask her, how can, if you can't, if you don't have the time, but you wanna help with the fundraising part, let's see how we can do that. Hey Cindy,
Yes, sir.
if they don't have time to be able to come volunteer that way, how can they help financially?
So, we do 5 fundraisers, 5 auctions a year. Obviously, we can't give free trips to kids if we don't have funding, so, you know, you can go on our website, contact us. I'm working on a monthly giving program. I think even at a $25 monthly giving amount, you know, with 100 people, that's a 6 or 7 trips a year, so. But yeah. We wish we didn't need money, but we do, so. But our auctions are really fun. We have one, Spokane next year. We're gonna do it in January. We're gonna try, we struggle with fundraising in Spokane. But we're gonna do it in January. We'll have one in Moses Lake, and first Saturday in March. We'll have one in, Olympia, probably towards the end of March. We'll have one in Lewiston, Idaho. And then we still have, so we have one in Olympia this next weekend. And then we have one in Tri-Cities in May, so kind of a crazy time for us.
How about a
between shows and-
website?
Pardon me?
A website?
Oh, it's Youth Outdoors and the letter U.org.
Okay.
Anybody else want a brochure?
Thank you.
Cindy, if one of you will give me a call, I will donate one of my charcuterie boards for your, what'd you say, 2 weekends or next weekend, something like that?
Yeah, let me put it in my Tri-Cities out,
Right.
that's not till May.
All right, that's perfect.
That's for you.
All right.
All right, we're gonna go back to this because our speaker, our friend Jamie here from Northwest Sportsman Club is here, and she'll be able to provide some stuff that we probably just completely.
Yeah.
Yay.
Late. Who scheduled this opening day turkey season? I don't know. I'm gonna tell you a little story. First of all, this morning I went out by myself and I was able to double up on Tom this morning. But then was by myself and I could take a picture, right? Can't take a picture by yourself with 2 turkeys. So I got home and my dad took my picture. You all know, well, most of you know my dad, Father John Belknap. He's been a longtime member of everything in Spokane. And I sliced my finger open, cleaning the 2 birds I shot. And my dad had to give me stitches, so I'm so sorry I'm late. But it was a successful morning, so thank you Ken for inviting me, and thank you guys for having me here. My name's Jamie Belknap. I am a 30-year-old 2nd grade teacher from Spokane, Washington. My life is teaching 2nd grade and hunting. 15 years, I'm gonna tell you a little backstory, because a lot of you have heard my speech already. 15 years ago, we were all a part of Safari Club International, and I was at the age of 15. So, when I was 15, I didn't know, I'm just doing what my parents ask and hunt, that's all. So, I had a dream of becoming president of Northwest Sportsmen Club. Because after we broke off of SCI, we started our brand new own chapter where all of our money stays local. None of the money has a national chapter. We are the only source of income for our club. So about 6 years ago, I was sitting in my parents' kitchen and he said, "God, we have so much money in our account. What do we do? What do we do now with all the money that we have?" And then at the time, one of my friends had broken his back at a football game his senior year of high school. And I said, okay, why don't we get a track chair campaign? My attorney laughed at me, the board members laughed at me, everyone laughed at me. And if you were there that night, I know some of you in the room were there that night, but at our annual banquet 6 years ago, I said, let's do this. Let's raise money for a track chair campaign where we give away the means for somebody to get back in the outdoors. And now it's our 6th year and we have raised the funds to give away 10 chairs. And so I am here today to just gain awareness of who we are, the Northwest Sportsmen Club. I am actually now the president of the club. I'm not in charge, but I am the president.
You hear that, Zeke?
So if you need anything, call my mom.
I know that.
Yeah, everybody knows. But we are just a local nonprofit organization where all the money we raise goes back to our community. Last year at our banquet, we raised enough to get 2 track chairs. And we have the application open online, and I have copies of it here as well if you guys would like to apply for the chair. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. If you've applied before and you haven't received anything back from me, keep applying. On our 3rd year of doing our campaign, we had 71 applications from 17 different states. And one person came up to us from Florida, called me on the phone and said, hey, my daughter wants to get married on the beach in Florida. Can you please give us a track chair to give my daughter her dream wedding? We're like, no, unfortunately, it's not in our bylaws as a club. We're a local nonprofit to give back to our local community. So now we brought it back to Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Montana, and the local regions of Canada. So if you guys know anybody, or if you're in the room and you're wanting to apply, please do. We only have 2 applications so far, and we have 2 chairs to give away.
And when is the deadline?
The deadline will be, I'm gonna say right now, it'll be June 1st. Nope, can't be that, because we're giving it away on June 24th. Yep, June 1st works.
Okay, and you got applications here?
I do have applications, and the application is actually on a Google Drive. If you don't know how to make a Google Drive or apply on the Google Drive, I'll give you my phone number and I'll give you my quick 2nd grade teacher rundown on how to apply on a Google Drive. Pretty easy, promise.
Okay, and will you be around here for?
Yeah. I just have one, I'm not a guide. I don't take any money, but I am taking my friends on their first turkey hunt tonight after this. So I'll hang out for a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
And I also, as a club, we do have a fundraiser. We have a side-by-side. I know it's really little, you can't see it. It's a Ranger Polaris. If anyone who's at the Bighorn show, you might have seen it there. It's $100 a ticket, and we're only selling 500 tickets. I have had
$30,000 piece of machinery. It's got doors on it and heated, and windshield wiper.
Yes,
Sure.
and how we do our track chair campaign, I don't know if any of you guys have been at our banquets in the past, but we do a total live auction, and all that money that we raise goes straight to our disabled hunt that we do every year at Miller Ranch, which was just a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And then we have, free hunter ed that we have done in the past. Since COVID, we haven't really been able to give that back, bring it back, because there's so many guidelines. A lot of our older or more seasoned people in the club don't necessarily want to wear a mask. If they're not gonna follow protocol, they can't teach the class. So we're still working on getting that hunter ed back, but all of our money goes back to local organizations and we do have, Medical Lake Shooting Club and FFA, all the FFA Freeman kids come to us and we donate probably $20,000 a year to the local shooting teams. If anybody in this room here needs money at all as an organization, come to us. I'm the president, tell them I sent you.
How many platforms did we want to do?
I mean, no, honestly, and that's what, we're here together. I mean, we're all here for the same reason. We all just want to get everybody involved in the outdoors and a little bit about the tractor. I don't know how much you want me to talk, I'm sorry. Okay, so we do use, track fab out of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Instead of Action Track, which is, I believe out of Portland, or there's a place out of Portland, but they were willing to give us the best deal. And there hasn't been any complaints on our chairs at all that I've heard of. And everybody that we give the chairs away to seem to be really enjoying them. Just a great cause, so. That's all I've got.
Where do you get the batteries?
Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. The batteries have been the only issue, but their customer service is pretty good.
So the reason that question, I was just explaining.
I know, just stop it. Everybody stop. Stop.
We got Doug's chair out in the warehouse and it needs a new battery.
Yeah, we couldn't get it in here.
Has he called him?
No, I don't think he has.
Okay, well, I'll call him. I'll call him right now.
When we realized that it needed a new battery, we started looking, and the best we could find anywhere was started at $500.
No, call me.
Okay, what?
Nobody here either.
Here, yeah.
So
It honestly, I mean, we've had, what, 8 track chairs given away. If there's anybody that has an issue with it, we'll just call the company, and if they can't help.
see what I wrote?
If they can't help, our club will front it, and I say that as the president.
Go ahead and read that out loud.
I'm not, you want me to read out loud? Hello, everybody.
The bottom one. Here you go.
Let's ask Jamie if she has a connection for replacement batteries for the chair. Can I have that pen? Yes. Here's your answer. I'm gonna keep that to remember. But that's. Northwest Sportsmen's Club is a great organization. If you haven't heard of us, if you haven't been around, we work with any company that wants to, basically anything to get people outside. Our heritage is being slowly taken away day by day. When I was 12 years old, I went to Africa on a safari with my family. I hate talking about myself, I'm sorry. I shot a 9-foot brown bear in Alaska when I was 19. I love hunting. I love the whole heritage and everything that everybody in this room believes in. I'm scared to have children because I don't want to have a child if I can't raise them the way I was raised. So that's what our club is about, keeping our heritage alive, spreading awareness, giving money anywhere that's need be, and mainly our track fair campaign. If anybody is interested, I see you, Cody. I got you. You're applying this year. You know you are. 6 times a charm, buddy. You got it. But if anybody has any questions, we'll stick around for a little bit. I'd be here all day if it wasn't opening day turkey season.
There's plenty of them around the bench.
Late, Morgan.
But yeah, sorry I was late. I had to get pictures. Darn have lawns.
The
card will show up on your report card.
Any other questions for Jamie?
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I want to talk to you too. We were supposed to talk at the Bighorn show,
Okay.
but I was not there. Yes, sorry.
all right, let's move along then.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your time.
Hunting with Heroes is a program out of Wyoming that Thomas has
Already done.
You already did it? Where was I? Oh, yeah. Talking to the TV. And this next one,
That's Brett King on the
yeah,
left.
that's Brent and you, so that's still, you guys were both to the part of that program. Next one is, you guys probably already seen stuff about healing waters. I think it started with the Marine Corps, but they disabled, that's it came back, wounded from combat, whatever, and they use fly fishing and fly tying as therapy. So if you know anybody that, well, there is a Spokane chapter, I haven't been able to get a whole lot of response from them and being part of this. So I don't know what's going on there. They have a national website, which are very active. If they have any questions about maybe a combat wounded vet in your family or in your network, please contact them and see if you can get that person involved. Brent also was just in one of those other slides. He couldn't be here today. He just had surgery. And he's got pressure sores from his chair. He has no legs. So that's one day a week he doesn't have to spend in the gym. That's a joke he would have told if he was here.
Yep.
If he was here, he would have told it. So, Brent is the regional president for the Paralyzed, executive director for Paralyzed Veterans of America. And obviously, this is a program for veterans, but they have put together 3 or 4 portable blinds that can be towed to different locations for guys in wheelchairs. And I'll show you what they look like. Here's what the trailer looks like on the outside, and here's your view from on the inside. And they can be towed to anywhere. If you got permission to hunt a certain property that's, say, private land, he can make arrangements to have it delivered to that location for you. It's a really great program. And it's still going on, and they're looking at building another one, as the last I heard. If you have any questions about that, get a hold of me and I'll put you in touch with Brent. Theo mentioned earlier the blind out by Cataldo that we went and took it, and this is Brent, this is him sitting in that exact line. That is Mike Schlepp's North Idaho Sports Club, and it is a private club, so there is a cost to be a member there. But the fact that we were able to consult with him on how to make this one blind ADA accessible, that was kind of an honor for both of us to go out there that day. They put us in his ranger and gave us a tour of the whole facility. None of those ponds are more than 18 inches deep, and it used to be a cattle ranch. And he just built these berms and laid the water pipes, and honestly, it's quite impressive how much land is out there that you can hunt birds from.
That middle picture, you can kind of see where and that's just one of the trails or roads between the different ponds. And then you can kind of see coming back down to the blind. And so that's where he stopped and was asking, all right, would you be able to get into that blind? So.
He's got areas on his land right next to the Coeur d'Alene River that you can camp if you want, if you're gonna come out during summer and just enjoy the scenery. You can camp there for a nominal fee. And he's got plenty of stuff there, and you really love hunting ducks, and this is a great place to visit.
Those blinds are fairly close to the Hiawatha Trail or the Coeur d'Alene Trail that goes into the Hiawatha.
You've been there,
Oh, yeah, I used to live there. So.
okay. That's neat. All right. Tony, you're next.
Get up there, John.
Wake up.
My name's Tony Warren. I'm the president and founder of Operation Catching Freedom. We provide 100% free fishing trips for veterans, active duty, and first responders. We are a nonprofit. We're a veteran volunteer ran group. We're out of Wenatchee. Most of you are probably familiar with it. It's 3 hours east. We're right on the Columbia River. Uh, we have 5 trips a year that we do. We have one coming up, the second weekend of May is Operation Bass. I'm a tournament bass fisherman. I work with, our local bass fishermen there, and we hold an event at a McNaughton resort. We call them events more than fishing trips because Friday night we put on a dinner, Saturday morning we do a breakfast, and when they come off the water, we do a barbecue for them. We're really big into our barbecue. I am the compete in competition barbecue. Next weekend I'll be in Puyallup. We have the food channel following us around. I don't know if you've ever seen, Barbecue USA with Simon that goes around. He's gonna be in our pit next year filming us. It'll probably come out next year. So May we have that. June, we have, Operation Kokanee, which is an all ladies event that we hold on Lake Chelan. If you've ever been on Lake Chelan, it's a really beautiful lake. The fishing is pretty much off the hook. We get them out there about 6, and generally our boats have their 30 kokanee before 9 o'clock. So we don't do a barbecue. What we do is we take them out to brunch at the Apple Cup Cafe. So that way they can either have lunch or breakfast. And then July 15th, we have our Operation Salmon that we do out of Chelan Falls. Generally, we do about 25 or 30 veterans. We try to keep it under 30. Again, we do, that one usually starts, we try to get them out there on the water at 5 in the morning. So generally it's just coffee and donuts. But then when they come off the water, we have another barbecue we put on for them. Then our next one is our Ladies with Lures. That's up in Brewster. That's an all ladies salmon fishing event we do. We're working with the Brewster Chamber of Commerce. They're going to try to help find a restaurant that we can take them to when they come off the water. It's hard to barbecue that time of year because there's usually a burn ban going on. So that's one thing about summertime. Let's see, and our next one is our last one, is actually the last weekend in September at Cooley Playland, which is Operation Walleye. That's another one where we do a Friday night dinner, we do a Saturday morning breakfast, and then when they come off the water, we do another barbecue. In between all those events, I've got a bass boat and a salmon boat, so I do a lot of trips just on my own. These trips here, you have to go to our website and enter, because that's how we keep a database of our no-shows that don't call. And that's how we know if you've been on other trips, because we try to get people out that haven't been on trips before. And it is kind of a random draw. But like, say, Operation Bass, I'm leaving the 25th of April, and I'll be up the potholes up until May 3rd, or till May 13th, just running bass trips by myself. And those trips, I usually just throw up on Facebook. Sometimes I have self-service out there, sometimes I don't. And I'll just say, call me directly. First one that calls me, you come on the boat. Another one with the walleye event, that's kind of getting a little bit bigger. Now, what we do at the end of that, from October 1st till October 20th, there's 8 of us that take our boats and RVs and we go down to Steamboat State Park. And we stay for 20 days and we just run veteran trips out of there for 20 days between the 7 of us. That's another one where if we have an available seat, we'll post it on Facebook. And first one that gives us a call, has a seat. And if trips like that, if they don't make it, that's fine, because we're there fishing anyway, so it's really no big deal. And then we have guides throughout the year, that donate trips. I never know when those are gonna pop up. Like last night, I had one call, they had a kokanee derby going on in Chelan this coming weekend. And he had an available seat that he wanted to donate to a veteran or first responder. And all they had to do, they had to bring their license and snacks for the boat. It was a 2-day event, so we were able to fill that. We do we do have a group license. You don't need a catch record card. If you're out of state, our group license covers you if you're out of state. Other than that, that's about it. We do a fundraiser, which is, it's getting kind of big. We have about 400 people that show up. It's open to the public. We have 2 bands that come. We do a big barbecue. And usually what we do with our fundraising, because all of our voters are all volunteers. So we really don't do a whole lot of fundraising, but what we do with our money is I get a lot of people ask, well, can my kids go? Can my wife go? Well, we can't put kids and wives on our boats. We just don't have the room. Our insurance doesn't cover it. But with the guides that do donate trips, we pay them a full price, and then we try to get a veteran and his wife or his kids out just with that guide for the day. So that's where a lot of our funds are paying back the guides that donate trips. Other than that, that's it. I do have some brochures over there with all our information if you want to get a hold of us. And, other than that, that's pretty much it. I'm not really big on social media, but, obviously our veterans are getting a lot younger and they're all into social media. So that's why we have our Facebook and our Instagram, where we usually just use that for free advertisement. If you really want to know what's going on, just go to our website at operationcatchingfreedom.org. And, you can also call me, my number. Well, I don't think my number's on there, but, our email is, and I have some cards with my number. I'm retired. This is what I do 12 months out of the year, so I'm always available if you need to get a hold of me. I know there's some older veterans that don't know how to get online and do all that stuff. So if you just call me, I don't pick the people to go on these trips, but I can definitely get you on. If you give me a call, let me know what's going on. I've had veterans missing both legs. We've had visually impaired. We've had veterans in wheelchairs. If I know what's going on, we can definitely put a team together and get you out on the boat. So it doesn't matter your disability or not, we can get you out there. And other than that, that's it.
All right, any questions for Tony?
I can tell you, it's really good barbecue. I'll tell you that right now. My dad and I went, or both vets, we went to the walleye trip, last year. And there, not a whole lot of people caught a lot of walleye, just bite wasn't on, but the barbecue was stellar. I mean, it was off point. People were like, give me more of that.
Yeah, we'll do our barbecues. That was our first time doing a walleye event, so we're just trying to, get a hold of that one, but. A lot of our barbecues, we'll have chicken, brisket, pulled pork, all the size, so. Generally, our breakfast is just eggs, then biscuits and gravy. Our dinners kind of range. I think we're doing tri-tip and, some other stuff for our Friday night dinner at the Operation Bass. Families welcome to come. We have a lot of people that bring their wives and they camp. Our bass one is at McNaughton Resort on the Potholes Reservoir. So they have camping, they've got trailers and they've got cabins there you can stay at. They've got a restaurant. All our events we hold where there's a dock, it's paved, so it's very easily wheelchair accessible. And, yeah. So if you have any questions, like I said, my flyer's over there. Feel free to call me anytime. I'm always available. I usually turn off my phone about 10 at night. But other than that, you can always get a hold of me. So thanks for having me and letting me talk about this. I met you guys at Spokane Bighorn Show. We just started in 2018. So we're just starting to get out there and just with our first year at the Spokane Bighorn Show. So hopefully we'll come back next year. We do raffles, we raffle off free fishing trips and stuff like that. So, yeah, you guys won the free guided trip with Austin Motor. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Larry.
Coffee back there, get some blood flowing, you can restroom, you, baby and the guy, if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I know the doctor.
Take care of them.
He doesn't know what to do. Nonstop.